So now that we officially have all of the information for WoW's 20th anniversary, it seems that this event is going to be absolutely cracked for leveling and gearing up alts. Now keep in mind, when going through all of this information, the 20th anniversary patch is going to last from October 22nd until January 6th. So this isn't just going to be like a week-long event or something. This is going to last a little under 3 months. So you're going to have a ridiculous amount of time to level up all the alts you want to and also boost up their gearing. And we have to first start with leveling, because the 20th anniversary isn't only going to be very good for, say, getting characters from 70 to 80, it's going to be ridiculously strong for getting characters all the way up from level 1 all the way up to level 80. And the first bit of this comes with all of the experience boosts we are going to be able to stack up. Now the first bit of this is able to be obtained right now, and this is the achievements you get once you get any character up to level 80. So once you get one character to level 80, you get an achievement that gives the entirety of your account a 5% experience boost, but this achievement stacks up to 5 times. So if you have 5 characters at level 80, all of your other characters get a 25% increased experience boost. And since this is tied into your warbands, this is across the entirety of your account. So whether you have this or not, this is still going to be incredibly strong, because you'll also be building this up if you don't already have those 5 level 80s. So just starting off, you have a 25% increased experience boost. On top of that, for the duration of the 20th anniversary, you'll have a 10% increase to all experience and reputation gains. This won't have a duration and will last the entirety of the event. But on top of that, there's also a daily quest you can do that just wants you to complete some of the random activities in the fairgrounds. And once you complete that daily, you'll get another 10% increase to experience and reputation for 12 hours. And what's really nice about this buff is it does not go down in time while you're logged off. So you can log on in alt, do this daily quest, get your 12 hours of increased experience, and then log off. Now, I'm not sure if the duration is going to stack. I'm not sure if you get the 12 hours, come back the next day, and it'll go up to 24 hours, but you could go through all of your different alts that you may want to level up at any point during the expansion, get them that 12 hours of experience, and then log off. So that's a 45% increase to your experience gains, but because the 20th anniversary runs so long, multiple times during this patch, the Dark Moon Fair is going to arrive, so you can also go to the Dark Moon Fair and get another 10% increase to your experience and reputation gains to give you a total of 55%. And this is just a start, because there's also going to be a ton of new content you can do while leveling up that's going to make leveling even faster. So this is just a 55% increase kind of at a baseline. So after you go pick up all of your experience boosts, you're also going to have a bunch of new content you get to choose between while leveling up. So first off, we're going to have classic time walking active during the entirety of the 20th anniversary. This is the new addition to time walking, and time walking is already the best way to level up whenever they show up for the weekly event. The amount of experience you get just for completing a time walking dungeon is usually like double that of running normal dungeons through whatever expansion you'd be in. And while classic time walking is going to be active during the entirety of the event, it's also not the weekly event. So presumably multiple times through the 20th anniversary, we will also get additional time walking events. So at some point you may have like Legion time walking active while you also have classic time walking. And the only reason I think this could actually matter is because depending on what expansion it is, some of the dungeons of certain time walking events may be easier than others. So maybe classic time walking ends up taking a bit longer to complete the dungeons than say Legion or Cataclysm time walking. So it may be better to run the other time walking events when they show up. Now, on top of this, time walking is also getting its scaling overhauled. So instead of your level being reduced to whatever level that dungeon is, now the dungeon's levels are increasing to your level. Now, this is how they actually scale the mage tower. So this is going to allow them to scale time walking to be more enjoyable and not feel super weird like time walking usually does. Usually time walking is like super bursty. You use one heal on somebody, they're full health, but they get hit by a melee and almost die. high, so it'll be better in that way. But this also means that people won't be able to have like time walking sets. They won't be able to go use old legendary items. But if you're just randomly queuing for time walking dungeons, you're not usually gonna come across people that have full time walking sets to make that run much more easily. So I think overall, there's not gonna be a big difference in leveling time, but I do think the actual gameplay experience will probably be better. And on top of all of that, time walking now starts at level 10. So you'll just be able to get to level 10 and jump right into time walking, which is usually the best experience possible. But that's not all for new leveling content, because you also have the 6th anniversary world bosses that are now going to be able to be done at level 15 all the way up to max level. So there's going to be 6 world bosses. There's now going to be 3 in Tanaris. There's going to be the Doomwalker, Archivon the Stonewatcher, and the Shaw of Anger. Also, all 3 of those bosses are going to have mount drops. Then you also have the normal anniversary bosses, which are Lord Kazak, the Dragons of Nightmare, and there's 1 dragon up every day and they cycle, and then Azuragos. And you can do all of those world bosses on a daily basis, and you can now do them starting at level 15. So presumably they're going to give you a good chunk of experience. I would be very surprised if they don't at least give a quest worth of experience. And on top of that, you will also be getting loot that starts at level 30. Now, presumably you'll be able to get these gear drops even if you're, say, level 15. You just won't be able to use them until 30. So that could also give you some additional potentially really good gear for the rest of your leveling journey. And again, that's 6 world bosses on a daily basis. So there may be a world where you just want to log on and ult, do your daily quest to get your 10% increased experience, go do the 6 world bosses, which are also now shown on your map, and you should be able to get to them very quickly because of dragon riding. You just go do those 6 world bosses, then you log off. That may actually be a very efficient way to get to max level. But that's not all either, because with the Blackrock Depths raid that's coming with the 20th anniversary, you will be able to queue into that on LFR difficulty at level 30. And presumably this is going to be extremely fast for leveling up. And it seems like they're taking this directly from WoW Remix, because in WoW Remix, once you got to, I think, level 20, you could start doing raids. You could do one raid at 20, another raid at 30, and those raids were some of the fastest ways to level up. You'd get a massive chunk of experience for every single boss you killed. And in the Blackrock Depths raid, you have 8 bosses and 5 mini bosses. So presumably every single one of those bosses and mini bosses you defeat will probably give you a large chunk of experience, and they'll probably be giving you the normal raid loot you would get in this raid if you went and did it at max level, just scaled down to level 30, which could also mean these would be really good for leveling up as well. There may also be some scaling shenanigans like there was in WoW Remix, where some level 30 characters may come in there and just start doing some absurd amount of damage, which would generally be just better for everybody because the LFR runs would just be much quicker. But presumably this LFR is going to have a weekly lockout. I would doubt that they're going to make this a daily lockout like WoW Remix. That may also mean that they give you even more experience if you can only go and do this once per week on a level 30. But on top of all of that, running this as a lower level may be good because you may also get the new currency. So if you don't know, in the Blackrock Depths raid, any of the bosses or mini bosses you defeat will give you a new currency, and you can go to one of 3 vendors to spend this currency to just buy pieces of gear from the raid. So if you do LFR, you'll get an LFR currency, you go spend it at the LFR vendor. If you do the heroic raid, you get heroic currency, you go spend it at the heroic vendor for heroic loot. And I think people map this out, and it'll take around 15 boss kills to buy any piece of gear you want. So if you're able to get this currency while leveling up through LFR, that could be really good because that could just give you potentially a couple pieces of loot right when you hit max level. Now, if you're a PvP player, you also have some content you may want to partake in while leveling up, because Korok's Revenge is also returning. This is basically just taking the old version of Alterac Valley and having it as an event version for a lot of the anniversary events. There's also a ton of daily quests for this battleground, and usually you're able to queue up for this at either level 10 or 15. Presumably it's going to be level 10. And in some of the previous anniversary events, this was actually the best way to level up up in the entirety of the game when these were active. I'm not sure if this is going to be the case because I think it's some of the anniversaries they did end up nerfing these. With all of these experience boosts, with a ton of daily quests in here, this is probably going to be at least somewhere on par with a lot of the other leveling methods. So if you're a PvP player, or if you just want to say go earn a bunch of honor to buy honor gear once you hit max level, this is probably going to be something that is very good. And depending on how it's scaled, depending on how the experience works out, this may actually be the best way to level up. It's definitely been that before. It may be like that again. So using all this new content and all these experience boosts, you're going to get up to max level very quickly. But because you're going to get to max level very quickly, you're not going to be very geared when you get there. That's where a lot of this new content comes into play, because there's also a ton of ways to get catch-up gear to get your character to a point where you can start doing the more endgame content that you want to be doing. So first off, you have a bunch of weekly quests specific to the 20th anniversary that wants you to go partake in all of the content that the 20th anniversary has, and a lot of these quests are going to give you a random piece of 597 gear, which is the champion track. So champion track starts at 597, goes up to 619, and I'm not 100% sure, but it seems like all of these caches are giving you gear from the Blackrock Depths raid, so you may also just be getting gear from that raid, which may actually be a good thing, because a ton of this gear from this raid is either just upscaled versions from the dungeon or completely remade new items, but they kept a lot of the flavor of those old items, meaning tons of those items, including most of the weapons, trinkets, even things like helms and necklaces, all have like on-use effects or just random procs, and depending on how these actually come out, a lot of these items may be incredibly strong. A lot of these different random procs usually either end up being kind of bad and not as good as just getting increased stats, or they end up being completely absurd and are like best in slot. So you have a bunch of these weekly quests to just get a bunch of champion gear starting off, which is very good, can give you a really good starting item level to get into Mythic Plus or into raiding. But on top of that, you also have the 6 daily world bosses that we went over, and all of those world bosses can give you veteran track gear, which is 584 up to 606. So that's 6 different world bosses, all with a chance to give you a veteran piece of gear that'll help you fill out all of your slots that you're not getting from champion pieces from doing all of your weekly quests. On top of that, you also have the Blackrock Depths raid, which comes in LFR, normal, and heroic difficulties, and the gearing in this raid follows Nurubar Palace. So LFR is going to be giving you veteran gear, so 584 up to 606. Normal difficulty is going to be giving you champion, 597 up to 619, and then the heroic difficulty is going to be giving you hero track, 610 up to 626. And in the exact same way as Nurubar Palace, as you get deeper and deeper into the raid, the gear you get starts being higher item level. So it starts being a higher item level within the gear track it's on. So maybe you go and do the raid on heroic, the first boss would give you 610, the last boss may give you like 620. And as we went over, Blackrock Depths also has that currency just for killing the bosses, where once you kill enough bosses, you'll be able to take that currency and go buy pieces of gear from that difficulty of the raid. So let's say you go clear the heroic version of this raid 2 times, you'll have enough currency to get yourself at least 1 piece of gear from the vendor that'll again be on the hero track. So that's just more and more gear you're going to be able to pretty easily get on any of your new alts that you're going to very quickly be able to also level up through this event. So when you add all of this together, you'll be able to level up extremely quickly while doing a bunch of new and potentially more interesting content. Then once you get up to max level, you'll have a ton of new ways to easily get yourself a bunch of endgame gear to allow you to jump into more endgame content much more quickly. You'll be able to pretty easily get yourself almost a full set of veteran and champion gear before you jump into any Mythic Plus, Nurubar Palace, or Blackrock Depths. So I think these 2 to 3 months of the 20th anniversary is going to be one of the best times for leveling and gearing alts in the game's history. But that's all I want to go over, so thanks for watching.